Hey, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor, America's first licensed astrologer. And I have my monthly Trumpology report this month, May 2020. And I've got the United States chart that I'm going to include in it. I have done a video on my YouTube channel under the title of Coronavirus and the US chart. I looked for those times when we might expect improvement in our money, our jobs, and our health. I did it last month, just a few weeks back. But I'm going to go over the United States chart again, because there are a couple of things that show up that were not necessarily related directly to those topics. And if you just look at the dates that I've outlined, you'll see that when it was indicated astrologically that there would be an improvement in our health, it started not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. That's exactly when people were looking at the number of the COVID-19 cases we had, the number of deaths, and there was an improvement, not radical, but an improvement. And that's what I was looking for, an improvement, something to give us hope. So I'm going to go ahead and include what I've seen in the United States chart beyond that, just so we'll have it. Okay, so this is Trump's chart. Just for the sun, we're just doing the sun on this one. And the sun begins, the center of our life, the giver of life. It's in his 9th house of the higher mind, long distance communication, correspondence, transportation. This is communicating with people at a distance and making his impact felt at a distance. On the 24th of May, the sun moves into the 10th house, his 10th house of his public image. And while it will not touch his Uranus North Node sun, those of you who have his chart memorized, until June, it is nevertheless the sun is nevertheless in his 10th house. Now, when the sun is in your 10th house, you feel great leadership, great power, great impact. So the center of his life after the 24th is being in the spotlight, being the leader. And incidentally, there's a new moon there in his 10th house on the 22nd of May, so that he's in his favorite position, which is top of the heap. Okay? The full moon on the 7th is in his 3rd house of communication, short distance communication and transportation, communication, correspondence, and transportation. And this is him doing a lot of communicating. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's always communicating. He's always on the news. He's always in the spotlight. Yeah, that's true. That's what he likes. That's what he wants. And that's where he's going to be, even more so. And then the new moon, remember, this is on the full moon. Now, things come to a head on the full moon. This is his 3rd house of his communication. And so there may be chickens that come home to roost, if you know what I mean. He will be making statements that, now, I know he makes inflammatory statements, but this can be more information, hopefully, of a helpful type. And then on the 22nd, we have the new moon, which puts him in the limelight. And on the 24th, the sun moves into the 10th house. And so he's top of the heap. All right. Mercury, what we think about and talk about. he's able to see a larger picture. He's extending his reach, and this is long distance reach with our with the leaders of other nations. In other words, on the 9th, Mercury moves into his 10th house, and he is communicating as the leader. Now, on the 20th, Mercury sits on Uranus, so we can expect some unexpected news from him right around the 20th. It could be the 19th, it could be the 20th. The 22nd, Mercury sits on his North Node, and he feels that that enhances his public image. And then on the 23rd, Mercury sits on his Sun, and he's talking about himself as a leader. He's focused on leadership. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there was a rally going on at this time. And on the 28th, Mercury moves into the 11th house of group activities, which might be Congress or friend activities. So Mercury sitting in his 10th house activates that Uranus. Just expect the unexpected, all right? You know, Uranus is the rebel. And so he's going to be making statements from the podium that will be unexpected. You might say, well, we're used to him doing that. Yeah, we are. And be prepared. Okay. Then Venus is sitting in his 10th house. Venus right now, at the time of this video, is in the shadow of the retrograde. We're feeling it, but it's the shadow of the retrograde. Venus usually blesses you. It's the lesser benefic. It is love, it's beauty, it's popularity, and it is going through his 10th house with Uranus, North Node, the area of success, and the Sun. It's sitting on that all month. So while on the 13th, it will go retrograde, and so there may be something about his public image that is unsettled, but he feels very good about his public image. Now remember, when we're in the shadow of the retrograde or the retrograde itself, things are hurry up and wait. So there is the promise, so to speak, of what Venus is going to bring, but he has to redo it. Whenever Venus or Mercury is retrograde, if whatever is begun during that time or whatever occurs, very often there will be a redo on that. Now, Mars, the planet of war, what we throw ourselves into, what we fight with or fight for, it's in his 6th house right now. And what this means is he's fighting perhaps his subordinates, going toe-to-toe with employees, because this is his job. 6th house is his job. It's not the health of the nation, it's his chart. And so there can be some inflammatory issue with his health. On the 12th, Mars moves into the 7th house of lawsuits, other people, partnerships of all type, contracts. It is not a good idea to sign a contract with Venus retrograde or Mercury retrograde. Now in June, both Venus and Mercury are going to be retrograde for 1 week. We'll talk about that in June. They're going to tag team us. However, from early April until late July, one or the other is retrograde or in the shadow of the retrograde. So it's a long time. And during that period of time, we have 3 eclipses. Okay, so Mars is fighting. It's going toe-to-toe with whatever the area of life is. Well, it's the 7th house of relationships. This could be Melania. This could be our allies, and our open enemies. Now, you might say, how do you get allies and open enemies? Because that's just astrology. So there can be fighting. There can be arguing over contracts, over agreements. So be prepared. Now, let's talk about the United States chart. Yes, okay. Make sure I've covered everything. Okay. Yes, the US chart. The sun is hovering right around the ascendant, and it's in the first house. The first house is the health of the nation. It's also the political climate. The sun is the giver of life. It lights everything up. On the 28th and the 29th, it crosses the ascendant of the United States chart. That is the most personal point in the chart, which is Gemini. And on the 29th, it sits on Uranus, the rebel. Uranus rules the 10th house of our leader. And so there is a lot of activity. The sun is shining on us. Now, the first house of a country also deals, along with the sixth, with the health of the country. And the sun brings light. And so this is one of the reasons why in the video I did on the coronavirus and the United States chart just a few weeks ago, I said that during this time, we can expect a certain amount of improvement in the health of the country. Now, it's not total, not the entire country. It also can raise up the people. It can trigger a certain amount of rebellion, Uranus. And I want to mention that the new moon on May 2nd sits right on the ascendant and Uranus. And so there can be little bits of protest, uprisings, as people come into their own, as people say, this is what I want, because this is the populace. Interesting. The full moon on May 7th falls in his sixth house of health and work and employees. So he might fire somebody else. And I know that you're probably saying, well, he's been doing that since he took office. I know that. We all know that. He's fired just about everybody he's hired. And this could bring about another firing or another hiring or both. And it does bring his health to activity. Wherever the full moon is, things come to a head. So this is his health, his job, and his employees. Makes sense, right? All right, now let's talk about Mercury. Communication, correspondence, transportation. It's in the 12th house right now of political institutions, prisons, jails, private activity, lots of communication, hush-hush talks that we may or may not ever find out about. On the 15th, Mercury crosses the United States ascendant, and we are, as a nation, talking. It sits on Uranus, and we're talking rather rebelliously, rather explosively. By the 22nd, Mercury, communication, sits on Mars, wars, anger, all that good stuff. So, excuse me, I'm grabbing something that was about to fall that fell. Okay. We're talking about, well, we're angry. The populace is angry and expressing their anger. Now, on the 28th, Mercury, what we think about and talk about, moves into our second house of income And by the 30th, it sits on Venus, the lesser benefic. This can enhance our income as a nation, the people's income, because this is the people, this is their income. So you can see that this looks rather positive. Now, let's talk about Venus. Venus is going to go retrograde on the 13th, but it's hovering around Mars. Mars is war, Mars is anger, Mars is impatience. Mars in the first house says, I want what I want when I want it. That's our country. With Venus, love, happiness. It brings love to passion. And so there can be a mixed bag here. Venus is going to go retrograde on the 13th, but it hovers on Mars from the 1st till about the 24th. And that is a mixed bag. Part of the populace loves themselves. The other part is angry. And they combine for passion. Now, let's look at Mars. It is in the 10th house of the president, of the party in power. And that is ambition and anger and moving upward, taking a fighting stance. We know that and this is the house of the president. We know that one of his tactics is to get his base riled up and angry. And that's what's been going on and will continue to go on during May. Now, I want you to look at something here that I hadn't included in the other video. This deals with institutions, colleges, higher education, long-distance travel, long-distance communication. It deals with importing and exporting. And Pluto is all or nothing. It's volatile. If it's going to go off on you, it's going to explode totally. Jupiter, the great benefic, is sitting on Pluto all month, and it's going to sit there for the next couple of months when it goes retrograde and when it makes its final pass over Pluto. And I'm going to take a look. Let me just look here at the ephemeris, because I was just planning on doing May, but I'm always interested in seeing what else is going to be going on. All right. So, right. Jupiter is going to be hovering around Pluto all May, June. It'll back off a little as the fall comes along, but it goes direct and then absolutely sits on Pluto at the very end of the year. And if anything explosive is going to be happening in any way, shape, manner, or form, I feel that it will be when Jupiter sits on Pluto for the last go-round, which, as I said, is really December of 2020. I know it's supposed to be a May forecast, but if I've done your chart, I always give more than the current time frame. All righty, let's see what we got here. Yes. Okay, this looks better. The end of the year, November, December 2020. So it's not going into 2021, but this is going to have an impact on our importing and exporting from all over the world. And this plutonium can be volatile. It doesn't have to be, but with Pluto being all or nothing, we may see some more tariffs, some more action taken. And you might say, well, I thought Jupiter was the greater benefic and it blessed everything. Well, it is the greater benefic, and it expands whatever it touches. It is blessings. However, to get to the gift, there may have to be in the case of Pluto, a little bit of explosion. You know what I mean? Just a little bit. And then in 2021, both Saturn and Jupiter are both in Aquarius, the sign of the humanitarian, the sign of humanity, the sign that says what's best for the whole is best for the individuals within the whole. And it's going to be a very, very interesting time with both Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. More to come later on this year. And I'm looking forward to 2021 to see how that shakes out. And we pretty much have to take it on a moment by moment basis because there's so much getting ready to happen, getting ready to pop. So join me next month when once again I give you my Trumpology report, my take on all things Trump, including the United States chart. And of course, here's the president campaigning. So we can expect to see some more of that. And by the way, if you are interested in your own forecast, just go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com. Order the reading that you like. Tell me that you saw me on YouTube. I really appreciate so many of my friends I have yet to meet. You are beautiful people. You make my job easy. And I thank you all so much, dear friends I have not yet met, and those friends I have met. So, till next month, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours.